Last week, there was an interesting article about COVID vaccine booster shots in the New England Journal of Medicine that I wanted to bring to your attention and sort of unpack because it helps to better explain some of the insane, sort of tribalistic, dichotomous thinking surrounding vaccine boosters, especially as it relates to boosting young children. Now, this is actually a very apropos or timely topic because as our family just sort of faced or realized that many summer camps are not only requiring a 2-dose vaccine for children, but if your child is eligible over the age of 12, many summer camps across the country are requiring children be not only fully vaccinated, but fully boosted prior to enrolling in summer camp. So this is actually very timely. This is relevant. And Paul Offit does a wonderful job in this piece here titled COVID-19 Boosters, Where From Here? So where do we go from here? What does the data show? What are the risks? How do we go from here? And he finishes off this article, which I really want to hone in on, about how our dichotomous thinking created such irrational policies and our zero acceptance for mild or asymptomatic infections and our unrealistic expectations about what these vaccines actually do and the benefits that they offer has caused these insane, irrational policies to be in requirements for children and college-age kids and high school kids to even play in sports. Or you have Olympic athletes now for Olympic trials and worlds. They must not only show proof of vaccination, but proof of being boosted. We're talking about the healthiest of the healthy amongst our society. And there was a recent article, and we're going to break down this article even further, showing that exercise is protective against severe COVID-19, which is really what the vaccines have been shown to do, is prevent severe disease, hospitalization, and death. And look, we used to get banned for even saying this, but these vaccines haven't been shown to completely block mild infections or asymptomatic infections. But because we have this zero tolerance policy, as Paul Offit talks about, and I'll just quote some of the things he says, this zero tolerance for asymptomatic or mild infections, that, my friends, has led to all these erroneous, dichotomous, tribalistic thinking and the implementation of policies that are not totally based upon sound science. Ergo, making Olympic athletes or people that are aspiring or trying out to be in the Olympics show proof of being fully boosted, okay? He goes on to say, it is now incumbent upon the CDC to determine who most benefits from boosting dosing and to educate the public about the limits of mucosal vaccines. Otherwise, a zero-tolerance strategy for mild or asymptomatic infection, which can be implemented only with frequent booster doses, will continue to mislead the public about what COVID-19 vaccines can and cannot do. So he goes on to say that we have to consider the potential downsides because perpetual boosters don't come without risks. And one of the main risks that he highlights here is the idea of this original antigenic sin. And we've talked about this before, and that's the idea, the premise that when you repeatedly show the immune system the identical antigen reduces its ability to respond to slightly immunologically different antigen, i.e. new variants. In his words, he calls that an immunogen. So this would be a spike protein that has been mutated, such as the differences in the 5 or 6 different mutations in the spike protein of Omicron compared to the alpha version, which is what the whole platform of the mRNA-based vaccines is based upon. And so he says that an example of this phenomenon can be found in a recent study in non-human primates showing that boosting with an Omicron-specific variant did not result in higher titers of Omicron-specific neutralizing antibodies than did boosting with the ancestral strain. This is a potential problem and could limit our ability to respond to new variants that are potentially more pathogenic. So again, these vaccines are not, or these boosters are not without any downside or not without risk. And so it's a totally different story of boosting 65 or 72-year-olds, giving them 3 and 4th doses, as those individuals in that age cluster, that category, have been shown to be more susceptible to developing severe complications, severe illness. But we're talking about mandating or creating rules to enroll in high school, college, or even summer camps if you're 12 years old to get a booster. Now, again, So we have data showing that boosters are effective for people over the age of 72 and 65, but the data is not really there for children to show that it adds additional layers of benefit. And many people have talked about this. Vinay Prasad and Marty Makary and various folks have brought this up. And Paul Offit, again, he's a vaccine advocate. He wrote this article. He goes on to say the 3-dose vaccine, although it has been shown to prevent, severe disease and so forth in elderly individuals, he says right here, unfortunately, this protection did not persist for more than a few months in children. And so there is some lack of added incremental upper bound benefit to this. Again, this isn't vaccine disinformation. This is just reading literally what he's saying. And this was published, by the way, in the New England Journal of Medicine. And so he goes on to say, people are now confused. People are now confused about what it means to be fully vaccinated. And it is easy to understand how this could happen. Arguably, the most disappointing error surrounding the COVID-19 vaccines was labeling of mild illness versus asymptomatic infections after vaccination as breakthroughs. He says that is the crux of the problem. And I would agree with him at this point. And he says, as it is true for all mucosal vaccines, the goal is to protect against serious illness. Okay? So that means that these should have been recommended for people who are at statistically higher odds of developing severe illness, i.e., overweight individuals, morbidly obese people, elderly people, not 12-year-old healthy kids. Okay? He says the goal is to protect against serious illness and to keep people out of hospitals, intensive care units, and the morgue. The term breakthrough, which implies failure, created unrealistic expectations and led to the adoption of zero-tolerance strategies for this virus. And he goes on to say that if we were to move forward and accept the fact that the people that are at high risk have been protected by way of vaccination, then we should have more acceptance for mild or asymptomatic infections and stop sort of believing in this zero COVID policy, because obviously it hasn't worked for any country in the world. And it's not working for us here because we are continuing to implement new policies, which, as he talks about, from original antigenic sin and potential increases in myocarditis, especially in boys between the ages of 16 and 26 in that age category, this is a realistic concern. So you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I think this is interesting. Again, it's interesting to see a vaccine advocate sort of rein some of the activists in the media and all the proponents that have been, sort of selling or pitching this zero COVID policy. But again, has been unattainable. No country throughout the world hitherto has been able to attain that. Even countries like Australia, New Zealand tried it, didn't work, my friend. So because this had been relevant for our family with regards to enrolling our daughter into summer camp and then seeing all these things come up, if your child is over the age of 12, they must show proof of not only vaccination but also being boosted. I was like, gosh, I got to cover this. So anyway, thank you, Paul Offit. Thank you to the New England Journal of Medicine for actually allowing such an editorial to be published, because 18 months ago, this would have been sort of relegated to the box of disinformation, of misinformation, of promoting vaccine hesitancy. But we're finally reaching a place where we can have rational conversations about this. And I think it's important and relevant that we do. So friends, as always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hitting that like button. If you enjoyed the video, please share this with a friend and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye now.